record this, Brett?
Yep, that's cool.
Good. Perfect. All right, guys. So this is the kickoff of our 2025 Alumni Networking Series, speaker series. For those who are new, or just as a reminder, this is an opportunity for you guys to meet with, hear from, and get to engage with some of our top alumni that are working in various fields. And so we're really excited for Bobby to be here to talk to us today. Just as a reminder of the format, so Bobby will talk, we'll do a sort of live interview for 20 to 30 minutes, and then we'll finish with 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A. So any questions you guys have, just get those ready to go, and then you can either raise your hand or put them in the chat, or if somebody has a question, put your name in the chat, and I will call on you when we get to the Q&A portion. It is being recorded, so for those who aren't here, they'll get to see it as well. All right, so like Coach Stevens said, Bobby Donnelly was a teammate of ours. Bobby, we were at the same time, right? 2002 to 2006?
I was 0307. So
Okay, 1 year difference, right?
yeah,
1 year difference.
when you were playing in the NFL, uh I was still trying not to get in trouble in the
That's
off
right.
season.
That's right. So Bobby was a starting kicker for us and then has gone on to do incredible things, working his way all the way up through State Farm and is currently the vice president of agency sales at State Farm. And Bobby, you're just moved, right? Where are you located at now?
Yeah, so I was actually my first State Farm stop was I owned a State Farm agency in Orono actually. I was
Oh,
born and raised in kind of southern Maine. First agency was in Orono. I think I opened the doors there around 25 years old, give or take. Later opened an agency in New Hampshire, then went into kind of a field leadership position down in the Hartford, Connecticut area, and now I'm down here in Florida. So it's kind of been
excellent.
my journey.
So cool, Bobby. And I can't wait to get into that and tease out some of those details because it really is incredible what you've done and where you're at. And to be starting an agency at 25, I'm really interested to hear that story and what went into that. But I did want to start about just your time at UMaine, man. Can you reminisce with us a little bit and tell us about your 4 years up in Orono?
Yeah, I think this is an important part of the story, guys. Uh, Back when DeVito and Coach Stevens and I were there, Coach Cosgrove had this thing when you were a freshman, and I don't know if you still have to do this or not, but you had to do study hall your first year, right? Mandatory study hall for the first year. It was a requirement. Make sure you're getting your grades in as well as contributing to the field. And um, I got a love letter from well, I should say that differently. My parents got a love letter from Coach Cosgrove at the end of my freshman year that said, "Congratulations, we want to let you know that Bobby qualified for going to study hall, mandatory for his second year." I struggled, guys. I'll be honest with you. I made the travel team as a freshman. I was a recruited kind of walk on. Didn't have a scholarship my first year. Actually had the ability to go play Division I soccer and just fell in love with the football team on my recruiting visit and decided to go try to kick some footballs instead. And so I was trying to balance being a freshman, being on campus, having that freedom to kind of go and do what you want, meet people, go do kind of the whole nightlife thing as a freshman. And I wound up at the end of my freshman year with a 1.9 GPA. That's not that's not meeting anybody's standards, right? And so, but part of that challenge, Mike, was really having made the travel squad. I had 5 classes. I was always kind of that B student in high school, not necessarily crushing grades by any way, shape, or form, but I had to learn. And this is my first life lesson professionally as well. I had to learn how to manage my time. And the football program really kind of, whether it was automatically learned or it was forced by Coach Cosgrove, I really had to kind of learn how to manage my time. And so for me, what that meant was going into year two, I was going to take 4 classes a semester instead of 5. And then Mike and I were chatting in advance of this call, but you guys are doing it differently than we used to. It was voluntary to be up at Maine and on campus in the summer. If you wanted to move up the depth chart and get a shot at kind of starting, you probably put some good effort in and impress the coaches, impress your teammates, and that helped. And so that afforded me the time to take 2 summer classes to kind of make up for what I didn't take care of during the regular season. And that level of balance allowed me to, I think I ended up graduating with like a 3.3 or 3.5, something like that. It wasn't nothing, again, nothing earth shattering, but I had to go through those life lessons. Number one. The second part of that I would share around kind of my time at Maine was that um, I my stature does not suggest that I played offensive or defensive line in any way, shape, or form. Right? I was 6'3", 163 pounds when I reported into camp on day one. Guy that sat next to DeVito in the locker room by the name of Bruno Dorisman was my that's who I was going to room with. Bruno was about 6'4", 290, and we were roommates. And I'm like, what did I get myself into? Right. But that was really where I quickly learned that when you're a part of the Black Bear family, that's it. You're part of the family. It doesn't matter what, just demonstrate that you put hard work in, you'll gain some respect, and gained a whole bunch of weight in the weight room and was doing all the same off-season workouts as the rest of the guys. And from there, again, kind of life lesson that I learned was that what you put forward in effort, whether it's on the field and you're making plays and scoring touchdowns and doing all that stuff, you gain just as much respect for what you do off the field, in the weight room, in the community, and that sort of stuff. And so for me, being a place kicker, I just wanted to be part of kind of the in crowd with the people that I get to lead now. I call it the Cool Kids Club, if you will. Like, you want to be a part of that. That doesn't mean if they're doing things that they shouldn't be, you should be participating in that. But what it does mean is that maybe if you see a teammate doing something out of line, and DeVito, we had a couple 6 a.m., 5 a.m. runs for folks getting, out of hand on a weekend type of deal. You got to have the leadership courage, no matter what your role is on the team, to step up and say, hey, brother, I got you. Let me help you kind of get back in line. If someone's down because they went from starting to number 3 on the depth chart, encourage them to keep working twice as hard to get to earn their spot back. Don't count them out, count them in. And I learned all of those lessons, guys, really just through being engaged and trying to take advantage of the football opportunity in front of me, regardless as to what the outcome on the field was going to be. I just felt like student athletes having that status when you get out into the professional world, whether you go NFL, CFL, or you do something completely different, it means something if you took advantage of the opportunity in the right way. If you wasted your opportunity, you learned nothing that might transpire professionally. But if you take advantage of it professionally, it's really kind of wind in your sails and it can help accelerate your opportunity. So again, all of that was learned through my peers, my teammates, the coaching staff at Maine, and then certainly the teachers as well. So just super proud to be a part of the family, Mike.
Yeah, Bobby, that's fantastic. And I want to circle back and land the plane there, because there's so much good stuff that I think it's important for our guys to see the connection between the lessons learned at Maine and how that served you moving into life after football and the success that you've had. But before we get into that, talk to me about, I'm really interested about that time frame between after you got done with football in Maine and that next phase of life. What was that transition like out of football and into, because like you said, quickly you're owning your own State Farm agency in Orono. So talk to me about that phase.
I'm glad you asked this question. I wasn't necessarily thinking through it. I chatted with a family friend of mine that's had a phenomenal career as well. And he's like, you really ought to write a book. And no one's got time for that. But it is hard. It's really, really hard, right? So you go from this extremely regimented schedule where it's basically, wake up, go work out, eat as much as you possibly can, go to school, go to practice, rinse and repeat. I graduated, and I just like physical fitness in general. I think we all probably have a liking to that, given what we do. But um, I did my off-season workout schedule for 2 years in a row because I literally did not know what to do with myself because I didn't have anything to kind of compete for, right? You as soon as you decide you're not going to play sports anymore and you lose this sense of like I'm not competing for anything. Um, it's a real challenge. I'm married now. I've got 2 kids, and even to this day, like right now, I'm training for probably, I don't know, my sixth, seventh marathon. I've done a bunch of triathlons and all that sort of stuff. But to this day, guys, I still have to have I hate working out when I don't have a goal out in front of me. And so I'm going to run a marathon this September in Berlin, Germany, but that has helped keep my head clear, I guess I would say, just having something that you're always working for. And so as you think about no matter what your path is post school and after the season's over, I think having clear goals is so important. And so Mike, for me, when it came to that, my mom happened to work in the insurance industry, not anything, completely different type of insurance and State Farm, but I had aspirations of trying to go to a. They actually have kicking combines at different parts of the country, and I had aspirations of trying to go chase that a little bit. Kind of banged up my knee skiing and was like, you know what, I'm just going to go try to make money. Like that, I don't know that I've got what it takes. I still kind of regret that here and there that I didn't try, but after that, I was like, hey, I got to make money. I got to figure this thing out. And so I started to kind of just dip my toe into the insurance world, doing kind of claims. Um, and and I remember, I think I was 22, 23 years old. I told my mom, by the time I'm 25 years old, I want to be making 100 grand a year. And she said, well, that's not going to happen. You're not doing that. And I'm like, well, says who? Right? It says you, but that's my decision, right? And so from there, I just kind of really I was hungry to do something. I didn't know what that was. I knew the situation. So this is kind of the lesson learned kind of in that gap, Mike. Um, I knew the situation that I was in from a work perspective wasn't going to give me 100 grand a year, even though felt like I was doing well. Like I was getting $2,000 and $3,000 raises a year, but I was making like 42 grand a year. I think first job out of college, it wasn't going to get me there. And so it brings me to kind of one of the things that I kind of anchor to always is that if there is something that needs to change, you can't view change as a challenge. You've got to view change as progress. And so for me to make progress towards that goal of making 100 grand a year, I had to change the conditions, and that meant probably looking outside of the job that I was presently in. My best friend's father happened to own a State Farm agency. His dad always drove a fancy car, and they lived in a really nice house growing up. And I'm like, hey, talk to me about what your dad does. He was an employee of his dad's working in his agency. He happened to decide he was going to go open up his own agency, and it's like, hey, why don't you give this a shot? And I'm like, I, I've never sold anything. I don't know anything about owning a business. How do I dip my toe in the water? And he connected me with a couple people. But Mike, this kind of circles back to being a good teammate, being a good leader, being part of the community and being engaged. So how I stumbled into the opportunity during that gap, I had a friend who unfortunately her parents were involved in a murder suicide type situation. Tragic for our hometown community. And they came from super humble beginnings, and she actually went to Maine with us, Mike, but um, she had two younger siblings that she had to now care for, and she didn't have any money. And I said, hey, let's put together a golf tournament. Let's raise some money for her. And as luck would have it, one of the executives at State Farm happened to be there, and I was giving kind of the opening speech, hey, come donate as much money as possible. We get to support and put our arms around this family. And it was there that he said, hey, who's that guy? I'd like to chat with him about owning a State Farm agency. And then the rest, kind of went into the interview. And in that interview, I talked about none of my prior work experience because I didn't have anything. I talked about being a University of Maine Black Bear and my football career and how I competed and the lessons learned there. And that afforded me my first opportunity. And so that was kind of how I navigated that road between graduation to figuring out life and having goals and then trying to move forward to the next opportunity.
Yeah, Bobby, there's so much there, and so certainly it sounds like you found orbit in the insurance industry, but was that it sounds like the goal was fine like 100,000 a year. That was the goal, and then whatever it takes to get there, so be it. Or am I wrong? Did you have insurance in mind going through college? Because that was the
Yeah.
one thing I don't know. I wasn't thinking about what was next. I
No,
probably was thinking the
no.
same way, like money first, and then whatever I need to do to get there, we'll get that going. So was that
Yeah.
still the same
Spot
idea?
on. Spot on, right? I mean, like you guys are a bit younger than Jordan, Mike, and I guess, right? But the real estate market, so think buying and selling houses, like that was booming. And, as we were getting ready to graduate. And then in 2008, the real estate market kind of completely crashed. There was a big crash kind of in the stock market. But leading up to that and graduating, I was like, I think I want to go be a real estate agent. That's how I can go make money. That market kind of fell apart. So I didn't know what, I just kind of, I knew I could get a job in insurance because of some relationships that I had, but that was never like insurance guy is kind of pretty boring, right? There's nothing sexy about it. But to your point, like, no, the goal was never, I want to go be an executive at one of the world's largest insurance companies. It was just go make money and figure out how to do it.
Yeah, that's great. And I think the takeaway point there is, um, development of networking and development of character in yourself, right? It's like you don't have to have the trajectory planned out your freshman year in college, right?
No,
As long as you're building those intangible things that are going to serve you in the workforce and the networking aspect, working on that, then you can figure out when you get there. There's no anxiety about not knowing exactly what you want to do. So that's no, that's
I think
fantastic.
that's good. Let me double click on that for a second though, Mike, right? So everybody on this call is different. I part of what I do is kind of speaking for a living, and so to large groups of folks, and so it might seem like this conversation feels relatively natural for myself. If you asked me, I would describe myself as an introverted extrovert, right? So you put me if I walked into the locker room today and I didn't know any of you guys and you were just looking at me, I'd be like, oh shit, I got to talk to these guys. What am I supposed to talk about, right? So the nerves start to kind of bubble up, right? So what I learned around this networking piece that Mike is talking about is you don't have to be that person that attracts everybody to create future opportunities. You need to know the person that attracts everybody. So for me, my friend kind of likes being in the spotlight. His dad had really high and good reputation in the community. And so I attached kind of my anchor to them and said, kind of, hey, how can you help connect me? Then I had people that wanted to talk to me because of my affiliation or my association. I didn't have to be the one that stuck my neck out there. And so no matter what type of a person you are professionally, just kind of know that, learn that about yourself because again, everyone's different. Put me in a room of a bunch of people I don't know. I get the jitters even still today. I get on stage in front of 1,000 people. I still get the jitters, but you learn to kind of overcome some of that stuff um, by just surrounding yourself with really good people. And that's so important as you navigate, professional sports, you navigate college sports and even the professional world.
Absolutely. Excellent advice, Bobby. And so let's go now from okay, you're in the insurance industry out of college and currently you're in the C-suite, right? You're a VP at State Farm. So talk to me about the beginnings of working in the insurance industry and the road to the top.
Um, there's a lot to unpack there. But I do still come back to I come back to I think two things. Number one, every person that has either hired me or promoted me, and every person that I've hired and or promoted over the course of my career, the sentiment has kind of been the same. You're at the University of Maine right now. You're representing the football team. You have in Mike DeVito, Jordan Stevens, and the rest of the coaching staff. You have all of us had at one point. Um, you have people in front of you that are there to support you every single day that can teach you the fundamentals to play at the absolute highest level. In my business, I have people that I'm surrounded with that are better than I am, that have been in the business longer than I have, and they can teach me everything under the sun that they know, all the tools in their toolbox to be successful. The one common denominator that I always share is that nobody can teach you how to have good work ethic. And so for me, as I think about my kind of career and going from owning an agency at a really young age, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to manage a business, didn't know how to manage people, didn't know how to sell insurance, didn't know how to get in front of customers. But somebody on my leadership team, my boss essentially at that point in time said, here's the goal. And I'm like, well, I know how to achieve a goal. I'll just solve the math backwards and I'll execute because that's what I was trained to do. I was, playing at University of Maine, right? And so And that just served me well. And then from there, it turned into what's your brand? And so my brand, I think personally, has always been I'm looking out for what I call thy brethren, if you will, right? So I'm not a super avid reader, but I do love reading kind of motivational books. There's a great author out there by the name of Simon Sinek, and Simon Sinek often talks about there are leaders that we will follow oftentimes because we have to. They're our boss. We do what they say. However, there are leaders out there also that have no authority over us, and we would follow them through a burning fire because they truly have our best interest at heart. Whereas the leader that doesn't care about us and is just about results, 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 and beating you over the head with that, um, you might follow them, you might not, but that it's a jagged relationship, if you will. And so as I have thought about kind of that transition from owning an agency to managing about 63 agents in Connecticut to now having oversight over almost the entire state of Florida, over 600 agents down here. I meet regularly with the most senior executives here at State Farm. Um, all of that is largely because I just genuinely have care and compassion for the people around me. And when you can demonstrate that and help lead them through different challenges that they're going through, you can take the goal and set the goal aside and say, hey, you've got a rough thing going on in your personal life. What's more important, personal life or the goal? Personal life, go focus on that. The goal will always be there. So it's situations like that. Again, teammate, really, if you boil that down, Mike, it's how can I, in the professional world, be a great teammate to the people that I work with, whether I've got authority over them or I don't? And really, over the course of my career, that has been the thing that has continued to propel me. I feel like is people know that I genuinely care, and I do genuinely care about the people that I work with, just like you genuinely care about University of Maine, your teammates, and it makes a difference. It truly does. When people say lead with kindness or be kind, always be kind, kindness matters. Like it does. It does more than you could ever imagine, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice, Bobby, and I appreciate that. Now that I think about it, I should have started with this, but why don't we take a step back quickly and maybe you can take us through what does it mean to work in the insurance industry? Like what you talked a little bit about your role is now. What was your role when you started, and what did that look like? Just the sort of the details of what goes into being an insurance agent, working for State Farm, owning a State Farm. What does that look like practically?
Yeah. So here's the cool, right? So not to compare us versus the competitor, I suppose, whether that be Progressive, Geico, Allstate, you name all the different kind of players, but multiple different types of insurance. The type of business that I'm in is really kind of personal auto insurance, personal homeowners insurance. We do some business insurance, life insurance, retirement planning, and some bits of kind of supplemental health insurance. So as an agent, my goal was, hey, you will make X amount of dollars based on how many policies you sell. And so it really, I was focused on marketing, quite frankly, just how much money do I need to spend in marketing to get this many opportunities of people to talk to. I run their quotes. Hopefully, we've got a competitive price. And whether the price is good or not good, I still got to try to sell them on the value of me and our organization, State Farm. So that was kind of owning an agency. So, owned an agency, had the highest number of employees I think I had at that point was four. Um, and then when I transitioned into this kind of sales leader role while I was down in Connecticut, I no longer owned agencies. Now I'm working with agents and trying to help them have better conversations, help them understand what their marketing plan looks like, help them train their team members, for lack of a better term. Um, and so at the end of the day, that was kind of that role. And now today, I've got a team of 12 sales leaders, my prior role, that work for me. Each one of those has anywhere between 40 and upwards of almost 65 agents on their team that they're working with and coaching through. And so at the end of the day, State Farm is a sales organization. So we're trying to sell policies. When we do that, we generate revenue, we invest that money, we turn around, make money on the investment, and then we try to turn around and make more competitive pricing or grow our market share. And so today I kind of been more kind of on I'm kind of more zoomed out looking at the macroeconomics, I would say, of the insurance industry. But while I was an agent and where I started was super zoomed in, kind of one to one. I'm the agent. I do the quotes, you're the customer, you buy the policy for me, that's how I get paid.
And that was that a learn on the run type thing, or were there,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Like, I mean, literally hair on fire, don't know what I'm doing. I just know I need to be able to sell stuff. And the only way to do that is to talk to people. And so I'm going to buy enough marketing to get enough opportunities to talk to people. And that's basically how I started my career.
That's tough. That takes
Yeah, tough,
it's tough.
tough. Yeah, yeah.
So
Not quite the, here's a phone book, make a bunch of phone calls, but pretty darn close to it. Pretty darn
yeah.
close to it.
Bobby, how about if I'm curious. So now being at the top, I'm sure you're interviewing people for higher level jobs, but I would imagine you've interviewed people to work at State Farm at all levels. And so maybe some advice for our guys who are coming out and they'll be going into the workforce, maybe not in insurance, but just across the board. Do you have any, like, take us inside the interview room? What are you looking at, for prospective people to work in your organization, specifically as it relates to people who are coming right out of college?
Yeah, so I made a note on this, right? You have got to, there's two views of the college athlete, right? There's people that they think they know what happens, and then there's people that actually know what happens as a college athlete, right? So I don't care if you're Division 1 to Division 3. If you're a college athlete, you are, in my opinion anyway, you are being forced to operate at a higher level than my wife's got a podcast and she just interviewed a guy that's kind of bouncing around the league a little bit. And he said, you're different than a NARP. And my wife and I, she played college basketball. I'm like, what's a NARP? And that stands for apparently non-athletic regular person, if I've got that correctly, right? So as a college athlete, you've got that. And so one of the things I think you got to do to take advantage of the opportunity that you have had to be a Division 1 college athlete is you got to, not only do you need to sell that as kind of part of your brand, you also sometimes have to help people understand what that means. And so as I think about that, what that really means for me is when I'm interviewing someone, especially an athlete, I want to hear about their journey. I don't want to hear about all of the sunshine and rainbows because I know, even if you're a Mike DeVito that had an illustrious NFL career, I know that DeVito had bad days as a college athlete. I know that he battled injuries. I know that he had personal stuff going on. I know that his parents were sick one day. Like I want to know about you. And I think in an interview, sometimes we get so wound up about like, I've got to demonstrate that I know a lot about State Farm. I've got to demonstrate I know how to do this particular role. And while all that is true, one of the things I think about in an interview is that you got to understand that by and large, whomever you're interviewing with is they've got 30 minutes, they've got 60 minutes to make a selection, and they might have 10 or 15. I interviewed 4 people today, we selected one. The person that I interviewed today started crying in the interview. She's the person I hired. And the reason for that wasn't because she cried and I felt bad. It was that her story about her why and what she wanted to do and how she was going to do it was so compelling. And it started with, here's where I've been. These are my life experiences. This is the lessons that I've learned. Here's why this makes me the best candidate for this particular role. And then she finished that with tears in her eyes, crying, I promise I will not fail you. I'm like, I don't even want to interview the other 3 individuals. I do not care. Like that's my person. And that all ties back to she did a great job of demonstrating who she was and her ability to do the job. And so as a college athlete, not everyone's going to know your story, your struggles, the things that you went through to play at this level. You've got to do that and do that with emotional intelligence to help them understand it's not sunshine and rainbows. You're not eating from the silver spoon. Your friends are back home partying right now and thinking about what they're going to do on the weekend, and you're in black fly heaven in Orono, Maine right now, getting ready to go into two-a-days with pads on, and the heat's going to get dialed up, and so is the humidity. That's miserable. Been there, done that. You need to tell that story in an interview.
That's so interesting because you would think coming from somebody who is so into sales that authenticity wouldn't be the number one thing, right? It would be something like,
Mm,
I got to sell them on this, sell them on that, sell them rainbows and butterflies. But it sounds like authenticity is really the key.
it is. I there's no reason why I'm sitting in the role that I have now, if not for just kind of when I boil it all down, like I've got coached on it, got an executive coach. Like sometimes me being my authentic self isn't the best thing, right? Sometimes you got to dial that back, but I'm like, who else can I be? Everybody else is already taken. I got to be me, right? That's take it or leave it, right? So you got to live with that.
Excellent, Bobby. Well, we're right at 5:30-ish, a little bit over. So one last question, and then I'll kick it to the guys for Q&A. But I do try to ask this because I find it informative. If you could go back to and give yourself one piece of advice leaving college from where you are now, go back and give Bobby Donnelly 2007 a piece of advice before he gets going into this world of insurance and everything that comes after football, what would that piece of advice be?
Um, that's a good one. It's probably twofold, Mike. It's I love this quote by Henry Ford. He says, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." Right. So that's that mental mindset. I said I'm not an avid reader, and here I am quoting this guy. David Goggins is another crazy SOB that I love. I follow him as well, and his whole mantra is embrace the suck. Right. So what I didn't share about my college journey was this, and that advice would boil it down, Mike. That advice would be never lose sight of the fact that hard work almost makes up for everything else. I came in as a freshman, made the travel squad. I played in one game versus Hofstra. I did one kick, lost my red shirt, and that was the only time that I played my freshman year, but was on the travel squad. Mello was our punter slash kicker at that point, right, Vito? And I was competing against him, but I went home, guys, that summer. Again, different structure than you got now. I went home that summer. I got wrapped up in all the things. Hey, you're back. Freshman year's over. You're with all your buddies from back home, and I didn't work out and do the offseason workout the way that I wanted to or should have. Being a place kicker, I just should have just been out there taking reps, and I didn't do that as much during the offseason. I came in and got my ass kicked in preseason. And there was a freshman that had come in that was doing a pretty good job. And so um, I went from number two, almost number one on the depth chart at the end of my freshman year to three by about three-quarters of the way through preseason. And I actually went in and said, "Hey, I quit. I'm done. I'm giving up." And so I did. I told Coach Cosgrove, "I'm done." I actually went and met with the soccer coach, went to go to a soccer tryout, and he said, "Hey, you can join the team. You're good, but you're not going to start until after the next year." And I went to the home opener that year. That was when Coach Cole had been diagnosed with cancer. It was very well known, and I'll never forget sitting in the stands at that point in time. We got a W. Coach Cole came down on the field. I remember Darren Stone jumping and going crazy, and singing the sign song and on the middle of the field, and I was like, man, why did I leave that opportunity? Let me reflect on that, right? And so my reflection was it wasn't that I didn't want to be part of the team. It wasn't that I didn't think that I could play at a higher level and achieve that kind of starting status. It was look yourself in the mirror. You didn't do what it takes to get there. And so my advice around, kind of how to succeed looking back would be on the days that you're down, on your absolute worst days, don't quit on yourself. Put in more effort. Double down. Seek friends that can give you guidance and advice. Go talk to the coaching staff. Like I never had a conversation with Coach Cos or the special teams coach like, "Hey, I'm struggling." I never kind of came forward and said I didn't do what I was supposed to do. My bad. How do I get better? Can you help me? I just said, I quit. I'm done. Right. Like I knew internally what the issue was. The issue was me, but I didn't have the courage to go talk to anyone. I thought I was going to get in trouble. Right. You didn't do the offseason workout. You suck. We're going to kick you off the team. Couldn't have been further from the truth. And so as I shared that, and came back and had conversations with the coaches, they welcomed me back, thankfully, but I started from the bottom. And then by the time I graduated, I think I led the team in scoring and was special teams player of the year. And like everything started to kind of click at that point. But my point is, if I had just known from the beginning, embrace the suck, battle through the hard days, double down, seek friends and connections that can help you through those struggles, I would have never had that gap on my resume of being off the team for 35 days or whatever the time frame was, right? So don't lose sight of the fact that hard work will absolutely make the difference. When you're struggling, find a friend that can help you out, find a friend that can help you out. It'll make a difference.
Tried and true wisdom, brother. I appreciate that, Bobby. That's great. Okay, guys, why don't we kick it out for Q&A for about 10 minutes? So let's do it like this. If you have a question, just type a letter into the chat and I'll call your name. Just type whatever into the chat and I will call on you. Or I think you can raise a hand too, right? I mean, whatever's easier. Any questions for Bobby? Bobby, you answered. I guess you answered everything, brother. You're too good. Here we go. Okay, Elijah. Elijah, go ahead, brother. You can, I think you're muted. Oh, oh, I'm sorry. His mic is broken. Did you ever rejoin the team? Yes.
Yeah, I did. That was, but again, it was, so I joined the team. So game one, so I left probably 2 weeks left in preseason. I then turned around and after we had the first game of the year that year happened to be a home opener. I forget who it was against, but at the end of that game was on a Friday night or a Saturday night, I think. That Monday morning, I went back into the coach's office and was like, "Hey, can I have a conversation?" I kind of put all the cards on the table, told them where I had, not where I had been, but kind of what I had done through the off season and wasn't prepared, was willing to kind of start from the bottom. And Coach Cosgrove at that point was like, if you're a coach, you're like, well, what do I got to lose, right? This guy's either going to put in the effort, he's going to get there, he's going to help the team, or he's not, and he'll probably quit again. So, like, who cares, right? So, thankfully, I was given that opportunity. That being said, if my reputation had been junk after my freshman year, I don't know that I would have been afforded that opportunity. So, kind of what you've done in the past does matter, and what you're willing to own up to, as far as this is what I did, this is how I'm going to change. That also kind of matters too. So, long-winded answer, but yeah, I rejoined the team.
Excellent. Carter, you want to just hop on and read your message, brother?
Yeah, so my question was, so like for me, and I know a lot of guys can probably relate to this. I don't necessarily have a lot of work experience outside of being a student athlete. I don't have much to put on a resume. I've worked jobs, but they're not jobs that or I guess I would like to put on a resume. Being in that situation, is it more important to be able to show your work ethic through your past experiences, whether that being a student athlete or other things outside of sports, than having the skills that you would need for the certain field you're interviewing for?
Yeah, that's a really, Carl, that's a great question. No, I guess I would, whatever your resume is, it is what it is, right? I mean, if I'm hiring someone right now that's a student athlete, your job was being a student, and then it was being an athlete, and then everything else was just kind of help make ends meet. Most employers kind of recognize that. So I wouldn't be bashful on that. My advice in that example, though, would be, um, really, so like let's just say you've got no insurance experience and you want to go work for State Farm. Great. You want to go work for a State Farm agent, right? Because they all have employees too. Like, so if you're going to go in there, hey, I know I don't have experience, but here's all these life lessons and or odd jobs that I've done, and here's the lessons that I've learned. And then the important part going into that, Carter, and again, I'll reference State Farm here, would be, here's what I know about State Farm. Here's what I know about the opportunity that I'm applying for. Here's why I think me, Carter, would be successful for the organization and for this role. And here's my background that would suggest kind of my character and or my ability to succeed, whatever that may be. And so, no, you don't have to have experience. In fact, the lady that I hired today, again, real life example, she's probably late 40s, I would say, which is a little bit on the older side for when you think about starting a business from the ground up. And I asked her in the interview, I said, well, why, why now? Like, why didn't you do this 20 years ago? And she said, well, I never graduated with a college degree. And as a result, I never kind of had the self-confidence to think that I was capable of it. I've got all these licenses. I can do the job. I've been doing the job. I just didn't think that anyone would bet on me. And today she got hired, right? And so don't think that your past work experience is indicative of what the future will potentially hold for you. You just got to know enough to be dangerous about that opportunity that you're going to go apply for, and then play up your experiences, your real life experiences, and tell that story in a compelling way in the interview. Hopefully that's helpful.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Eli, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious on kind of just like the biggest leadership lesson you've learned either in college or like through the professional field.
Yeah. Um, I'd probably say the biggest lesson that I've learned is you can never be prepared enough. Right. I think Tyson's got a quote. I think it's Tyson that says like everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Right. And so your goal is to not get punched in the mouth. And the way that you avoid that is through training, work ethic, all of those sorts of things. But you really can never be prepared enough. And so if you're on that edge of like, geez, I feel like I put in enough work, or maybe I didn't put in enough work, bet on I didn't put in enough work. I should probably put in more. And I'll give you a real life example. So last fall, I was out in our home office in Bloomington. The group of people that I was with was sitting around a boardroom with the CEO of State Farm, our chief operating officer, and three or four other senior executives. I was part of a group that was given kind of, hey, here's our plan to execute on in 2025. In other words, what are our goals? I had 4 weeks to prepare for that meeting. The meeting was an hour, right? So like it's every question under the sun that the CEO could ask you at any point in time. How do you know if you're prepared enough for that? You don't. And so you just bet on over preparing. And so the team that I was working with, we had hundreds of pages of notes and research, and here's what we're going to do and how we're going to execute. 95% of what we had prepared, those questions never got asked. But if they got asked, I was Johnny on the spot. I knew what we were going to do. And so I was prepared for those types of questions. So I think the same thing happens as you think about playing college football, right? You're watching game film. You guys are doing that now, getting ready for your home opener. Um, like you can't watch enough film. There's not enough film that you can watch. You could watch every game for the last 5 seasons, and that's probably still not enough. And so I'm not telling you to eat, sleep, and breathe all things watching film, but that is the difference that gives you the slight edge over the next person. So those are kind of the life lessons that I've taken from college and professionally.
Great. Let's go to Malcolm Falk.
Hey Bobby, yeah, really just wanted to learn more about your experience when you ran your own State Farm agency after college. I feel like that's a pretty cool accomplishment and at such a young age. So really just wanted to learn more about your experiences and kind of obstacles you faced and how you overcame those.
Yeah, it's a good question, Malcolm. I face obstacles today, right? I got four people on my team that are not meeting what their current plan is, and I'm not trying to tell them that their baby is ugly, but right now their baby's kind of ugly, and I got to go have that conversation. It's not a comfortable one, and so I think some of the lessons learned around kind of overcoming obstacles, I guess I would say, is that you really have to you like maybe it kind of ties into that preparation piece, like if you know exactly what it is that you are chasing, if you know exactly what the gap is in your business plan, I would say in my experience early on, it was um, I had high expectations of my team. I was the the my top salesperson was probably 15 years older than me. I knew what his shortfalls were. He didn't. I had to, as a 25-year-old, go and tell a 40-year-old that he wasn't doing his job effectively. Like I wasn't really comfortable, right? And so what I learned, I guess, what kind of lessons learned in overcoming that obstacle is seek for understanding first. That goes back to that what I said earlier, right? Building a relationship. So this guy's name was Jim, and I just kind of said like, "Hey, Jim, this is what the goal is. This is what we need. We know what we need to do to get to the goal. It's not happening. Help me understand what's getting in your way." So I didn't say, hey, you're not doing the activity, you're not meeting the goal, you sucked at your job, Jim. I kind of started the opposite, right? It was like, hey, help me understand what's getting in the way. My immediate follow-up question to that, and it's how I tackle problems in my world right now too, is okay, so that's getting in your way. How can I help? What can I do to take something off your plate so that you can execute at the highest level to achieve said goal? And oftentimes what I found, Malcolm, is that as soon as I say, what can I can do to help? The person goes, I don't need your help. I just need to hold myself more accountable. Done. Go do your job, right? I don't need to be up in your soup anymore. Just go do your job and execute. And so again, I could have in any of those situations I just gave and experience I have, you can lead with the hammer and nail approach, right? Like this is the goal. I'm the hammer. Just keep doing the goal. You're not doing it. You suck. Keep going. That is a toxic work environment. And so as I think about just kind of overcoming all kinds of different walks of life challenges in the professional world, care, compassion, seek for understanding, offer to help. If you've got expertise, demonstrate what that is. Bring other people along with you. Don't leave dead bodies behind you. That's a bad. It's a bad work environment. Bring people with you. Don't leave them behind you. So those are just ways that I've learned to kind of navigate problem solving and overcoming difficult situations.
That's awesome stuff, Bobby. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, Bobby, we're almost at 5:50, so I want to respect your time, brother. Thank you so much. This has been incredible, man. Truly. We can't thank you enough for your time, the wisdom, and I know I gained a lot from it. And I know our guys did as well, and this is huge, going to help so many of us. So we owe you, brother. Thank you. Congratulations on everything you've been doing, your career, and it just really is a testament to being a black bear, and your success is incredible. So we appreciate you, Bobby. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you as well for the opportunity. I'll be following you guys closely, looking for a conference title and a playoff bid this year. At least that's what I'm saying. I don't know if Coach Stevens has got that on his agenda or not, but that's what I'm looking for. So excited for you guys. I'll be watching you this season. DeVito's got my contact information, guys. There's part of these doing these types of things is it's usually hopefully mutually beneficial, right? So hopefully you guys learned something today, took something away. Selfishly, I work and represent and am an officer of a Fortune 30 company, and we want phenomenal talent on our team. To me, phenomenal talent oftentimes is student athletes, and so if there's anything ever that you guys have questions about, there's State Farm agents. I know that there's State Farm agents right in Bangor and Orono. I know a few of the leaders there that I previously worked with. And then I know a lot of you guys probably aren't from Maine. And so I've got contacts all over the country. If the insurance industry is ever a concern, not a concern, a desire of yours, learning how to make money outside of football at a point in your future, DeVito's got my contact information. I'm happy to connect the dots for any of you guys. It's an awesome organization, and it's a really fulfilling industry. So if I can help anyway, don't hesitate to reach out.
Bobby, thank you for that. That's huge. Please take advantage of that, guys. If you guys want anybody interested wants to contact Bobby, just let me know. But yeah, thank you for that, Bobby. We're so grateful for your time, your generosity, man. Appreciate you so much.
All right, man. Go Blue. Let's go.
See you, brother. See you guys.
Thank you.